Since I was 18 years of age, I have chosen my own way of life. I've made my own choices. Some of those choices have been bad, and I've had the consequences of those choices. And the other choices have been good, and I've also had the consequences of those choices. But as an individual and a grown-up and an adult, I have every single right to make those choices. Just so long as I'm not hurting anyone else and I'm not breaking UK law, I can do whatever I wish. Now, the problem is, in our country, in the UK today, there is a small percentage, and I do believe it's a small percentage, that believe that somehow the government have every right to arrest someone, put them in handcuffs, or violently take them to a medical institution, or maybe even a car park or something, and jab someone, physically hold them down and jab them. Just like it's happening in Austria, I think it is. Some countries like Italy and where else was it? Italy, I think Australia, and a few other countries are talking about mandatory vaccinations. And there are people around that actually believe that the governments are in their right to do it. And the question you've got to ask yourself is, why are people believing this shit? And why do governments believe they have a right to do it? Now, my personal opinion is that if you are the kind of person that believes that a government has the right to physically, violently jab you with a vaccine, then you obviously need educating. You need to read more. History would be a good thing to go by. You need to understand exactly what it means for a government to have those kind of laws. Physically go to your house, handcuff you, throw you into a vehicle, take you to a location, jab you. This is what it means by bringing in this law. But also what you've got to remember, and I am talking to the people that believe that mandatory vaccinations are a good thing, is that there will be a time when you're not doing what the government wants you to do, and they will use these kind of laws to make sure that you get the same sort of treatment. Because what goes around comes around. Now, I'm no scientist, virologist, or anything like that. But what I do is actually read, and I have listened to different points of view in reference to the actual vaccine. As far as I've read so far, whether you have the COVID vaccine or not have the COVID vaccine, you will spread and can spread the COVID virus if you've got it. What the COVID vaccine does is minimize the chance of you getting seriously ill or even dying, which is a good thing. Sorry, my phone keeps pinging. What's happening today in 2021 is that we're having a serious fight on authoritarianism in the world due to COVID. And we need to be very careful on the powers that we give these governments. Don't believe in any way that just because we're in Britain, in the UK today, that we're immune to these sorts of actions. We're not. The UK lockdowns will tell you exactly we're not. The mandatory vaccines for care workers will tell you we're not. The mandatory vaccines for NHS workers will tell you we're not. We can't close our eyes. We can't turn off our ears. We can't think that someone else is going to fight for us. We've got to make sure that the government is aware that they can't do these things to us. We will not put up with these things. We will not put up with mandatory vaccines. Yes, the ministers today are saying we would never do such a thing. But the ministers of yesterday would say they would never lock down their nation, and they did. The ministers of yesterday said they would never bring in mandatory vaccines, and they have done in the NHS as well as care workers. The truth of the fact is that we can't trust any of the ministers, and we can't trust government, and we can't trust Parliament. What we can do is trust in each other. We are the bosses of this country, not the government. And we need to make sure that the government is completely aware of it. If you are that kind of person that believes that the government should have every right to forcibly vaccinate people, then I would advise you read a history book. To all the rest of the people that are awake to all this shit, I'm with you all the way, totally all the way. If I need to protest, I need to protest. But in 2021, I'm really scared for my daughter's life when I'm long dead. And I've got to make sure that the government of the UK don't turn into an authoritarian state. And I'll do everything I can to make sure that happens. Until the next time, guys, take care.